Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Germany and we've got a beer to look at today that I think will be very interesting. Now this is a beer style that I haven't reviewed too many of for you before on the channel, maybe only 2 or 3, but it's one that's native to Germany and it's become very popular actually with sour beer brewers in recent times, including Ritterguts here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. For this review then we are going to go down to Leipzig and we're having a look at my first beer from Ritterguts Gose Brauerei. So this one is the original Ritterguts Gose and it comes in at 4.7% ABV. So as I've kind of alluded to, this one is a German style Gose and this is a very interesting style of beer actually. So basically it's wheat based. There's about 50% of the malt used in the brew is wheat. They add some salt to the brew as well. In the old days they were using a bit of spontaneous fermentation with it as well, though of course now breweries are cleaning things so they use specific yeasts and all of this kind of thing, but you do get a little bit of lemon tartness out of this. And also interestingly, this is one of the few German beer styles, as far as I can figure, that doesn't use the Reinheitsgebot, or doesn't follow the Reinheitsgebot, so kind of unusual that actually. But as I always say, my whole love of beer started off with the German Rauch beers. Recently I've been getting into more kind of German styles that you don't come across too often. For example, Früh Kölsch was one that I'd been meaning to review for quite a long time, and hopefully I can review more Kölsches again, and hopefully this is the gateway for me to try a few more German takes on the Gose beer as well. So if you are watching from Germany and the Leipzig area, let me know some other Goses in the comment section below that I should be looking at. But this particular beer appeared through the Små Partiers here in Sweden in Systembolaget on the 20th of September 2019, and basically when I saw that this was a German beer, of course I was interested in it. I looked it up and apparently this is the oldest still existing brand of German Gose, so I thought this is a very good place to start. So really looking forward to trying this one, very curious to see how it turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. I'll also throw in a few things about the origin of the style itself. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Ritterguts Gose Brauerei. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Ritterguts Gose Brauerei and the origin of this Gose style then. So the origin of the Gose style comes from the little town of Goslar, which is very close to Braunschweig and Hanover in Germany, and it's just on the edge of the Harz Mountains. And the year that this style was brewed can actually be traced back to the Middle Ages, like the 900s and things like that. But the more official brewing of Gose beer began with Prince Leopold of Anhalt-Dessau, who began brewing it on his property back in 1712, and he later launched the Gose beer in Leipzig and launched a bar in Utrecht, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which really gave this beer style some popularity. And they actually couldn't brew enough to meet demand because they were also distributing to Prussia and Saxony as well at the same time. But in 1824, brewmaster Johann Philipp Ledermann moved to Dölnitz and he bought the recipe for Gose and began brewing it at the Dölnitz Manor, and its popularity continued to grow over the coming years, with many other Gose breweries opening up just in this very small village alone. But to differentiate the name, Ritterguts was actually chosen to mark them as the original brewery of this Gose style of beer. But apparently this beer was transported in barrels when it was still fermenting, and then it was placed in long-necked bottles which were left open in the cellars, and this of course meant that you had airborne yeast strains getting into it, as well as the top fermenting yeast that they were using normally. So these beer bottles would just sit open and they would be covered with a kind of sheet of yeast foam. Actually, if you've homebrewed at all, you will know exactly what I'm meaning. But by 1930 there was about 80 Gose bars in Leipzig, and this was the most popular beer style until the Pilsners started to take over. But at the end of the Second World War, the Dölnitz Manor was dispossessed by the Russians and the brewery was dismantled, and so there was no more Ritterguts Gose after that. In 1949 though, Leipzig brewmaster Friedrich Würzler began brewing using the old donuts recipe, but his partially nationalised brewery was then closed in 1966, obviously during the times of the DDR, the German Democratic Republic, East Germany. But a few attempts were then made to revive Gose from the mid-1980s to 1990s with bars, and I think in Leipzig for quite a long period of time they were drinking a Gose style beer that was brewed in Bavaria and then brought in. But it was homebrewer Thilo Jenichen who would actually prove successful just through experimentation to recreate the Gose between 1996 and 1999. In September of 1999 he was finally happy with his recipe, so the traditional company was re-established, and Thilo teamed up with Armin Brandt from Zum Kaiser Napoleon Brauerei in Leipzig, and together they optimised the brewing process for production on a larger scale. In the beginning this beer was only sold in barrels and in a very small number of restaurants. I think it was 4 or 5 they were saying in the beginning, but the popularity of this beer meant that they quickly outgrew this original microbrewery setting, so they agreed a contract with Hans Bauer, and the beer was brewed at his family brewery between 2001 and 2007, and when it actually closed. But the beer was then brewed by Brauerei Hartmannsdorf until 2014, and it's now brewed at Brauerei Reichenbrand in Chemnitz, which has been owned by the Bernd family since 1874. So this brewery as such, or this beer brand, doesn't have its own kind of home, if you like. It is a contract brewed beer, but as I mentioned to you, it is the kind of oldest still existing brand of Gose. There's probably a few other ones actually that are out there that are kind of a similar age. This one of course died off and was brought back, kind of similar to Weihenstephan actually, which says it's the oldest brewery in the world, but I think arguably it could be Weltenberg because they have been continuous. So yeah, but that is one of the big things they use for their marketing. They say that they are the oldest still existing brand of Gose produced in Germany. But it seems to be very popular, this one, and a very kind of well respected beer. So quite cool actually that whoever was in charge of procurement at Systembolaget thought to bring this beer up to Sweden. So yeah, pretty damn cool I have to say, and we are getting a bigger variety of styles of beers through Systembolaget as well. But as I mentioned earlier, this is my very first time encountering a German style, a German take on the Gose actually that wasn't from one of the newer craft breweries and things like that. I think I probably have had a few Goses right enough from some of the new wave of German craft breweries, but this one is a kind of traditional take on the style actually, so quite cool that I'm able to review this one for you. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Ritterguts Gose Brauerei for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages for these guys as well. They do have 4 different beers. There's a Märzen, there's a Bock, there's this one, and I forget exactly what the other one was actually, but it would be cool to try a Gose Bock actually. Hopefully I can get a hold of that one for you and review it at some point on the channel in the future. Leipzig is a city that's meant to be very pretty. It's one of the few big cities in Germany that I've not actually been to. Dresden is another one I need to explore. The former East Germany a little bit more actually. I've done Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg and the kind of west part of Germany quite a lot, but something I need to look at in the future. I don't need an excuse to go to Germany, well, someone has to give me an excuse and then I'll just go. But yeah, let's get on with the actual tasting of this beer then. It's cool to encounter another one of these traditional German beer styles. So yeah, there you can see the old Manny just in with his top hat and everything on there. You can see on the back it actually shows you some of the original artwork and things like that, and the Goses of course were actually, they used to be served in this sort of round bottomed bottle. You always get these pop top things that you get in Germany, but yeah, it's kind of interesting that they've actually put a Swedish label on this one for us, but as far as I can figure, you know, it will just be a Swedish label. They won't have changed the recipe or anything like that for the you know, for it coming to Sweden actually. But this beer apparently has won a gold award at the beer medals, and there you can see the bottle cap as well. It tells you that it was the brewery was founded back in 1824, which is obviously referring to the original brewmaster. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go on. We can get rid of the brewery notes for the moment, but we'll pop this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. This one incidentally is a half-litre bottle, which is kind of standard in Germany of course. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening then, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. And actually, just when you open this beer up, it's interesting because it really does just smell like, you know, like a lager beer or something. Just the aroma that comes out of the bottle really smells like a kind of standard lager. One of the things I will also say about this beer is that I'm not sure exactly what glassware you're supposed to use. I got told I was told that for a Gose you should use quite a wide mouthed glass, but I always like using these little I always like using these tulip glasses because they're the best kind of all-rounders, to be honest with you, for they're the best kind of all-rounders for these for pretty much any beer style, to be honest. This is a very good type of glass to use when you're actually reviewing beer and things like that. Germans get very sensitive about what glassware you should use for a beer, but this particular one is good for all-round styles, you know, lagers, pilsners, you know, whatever you want to use, doppelbocks, Belgian blondes, all of this. Very, very good glass. But as you can see with this beer, it's poured a very nice kind of light pale golden straw colour. There's a solid finger, maybe about half a finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty much as you would expect from a Gose. You know, the Goses are kind of blonde, sort of straw blonde in terms of their colour actually. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its aroma. So let's just take a little, or its appearance rather, let's take a look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one then. Oh yeah, you can smell the salt in that. Yeah, but I mean straight away you get a nice kind of white bready wheaty quality out of this one. You can really smell that just kind of forming at the linchpin of the beer. The salt is mixed into that and it's quite a nice fresh grassy aroma that comes out of that. You can pick up definitely some of that lemony tartness that you would expect from this style, but it really mixes in a lot with the hops. I mean, probably they'll be using Hallertau or Tettnanger hops in this one, you know, some of these typical German hops actually. I always love, you know, since my whole love of beer started off with German beer, I love the Helles and the Dunkels and things like this, and the Doppelbocks as well, but Rauch beer probably, if I had to pick, would be my favourite. It really, these German noble hops, they're so nice actually. I mean, once you really get used to drinking German beer, you just grow to love Hallertau and Tettnanger. You've got other things like Hercules, Pearl as well. There's loads of different German types of hops these days. Mandarin of Bavaria, Hallertau Blanc, you know, some of these higher alpha acid ones. Huell Melon I think is German too, if I remember correctly. So yeah, you just get to love the German beers. The malts are always very smooth, and the same with the kind of hoppy qualities as well. But you get that straight away out of this beer, this lovely, noble grassiness there. There's a tiny little bit of earthiness there, that sort of sweet earthiness you would associate with them. There's a little bit of a floral quality there, but to me mainly the green side of the hops in this beer is quite, they're quite grassy. The sort of lemony tartness is kind of mixing in with that, and you can smell the saltiness. The saltiness is almost the thing that's providing the bridge between the sort of wheaty, white bready kind of thing and the tartness that this beer shows in the aroma. So I mean, this one, as you would expect, it has everything that you would expect from this style because it is one of the kind of benchmarks, if you like. But yeah, take a bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this because it comes across as very smooth and very fresh. That was the thing I always loved about German beer, was just how kind of smooth it is. I wouldn't be surprised if they're using Weirmann malts in this one actually from Bamberg. You know, the Weirmann malts are very kind of popular, and it has that typical smoothness to it. So, or maybe they've got a local maltery that is more specialised, I don't know. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. But let's have a taste of this beer now and see how we get on then. So this one is the Ritterguts Gose, a traditional German-style Gose coming in at 4.7% ABV from Leipzig in Germany. Let's get stuck in. Slange, Skål, Prost. Yeah, that's really nice actually. So I mean, from what I remember, the Goses that I've had from different breweries, I mean, I'm sure I've had a few from, I might have had one or two from Riiterguts here in Sweden, and I'm sure I've had a couple from other places as well, probably some of the Scottish, I don't think many Scottish breweries would do that, maybe one or two of the English breweries. And I've got a feeling I've had one from the Netherlands as well actually. This one again, a lot of those newer ones can be really, really kind of puckering and things and very, very sharp. This one, the sourness is just really nice and very smooth. It's the same, you know, for this one I get the same kind of impression, if you like, from this as I did from the Flemish Reds. I was expecting something very, very sharp there, but it actually turned out it just had a little bit of sharpness, and then the rest of the beer was very, very smooth actually. So this beer is kind of striking me in the same way, albeit it's a completely different style of beer. It's given me the same kind of vibe, if you like, that I got when I had the Flemish Reds, such as Rodenbach, for the first time. Actually, it's very, very. It's got a nice bit of sharpness in the beginning, but then it just smooths out beautifully, and you can say the same about those Belgian and those Flemish red beers as well, Flanders Reds. But yeah, this is very, very nice actually. If you get the chance to try this one, just have a go at it. If you're a fan of sour beers, then I think this is one that you really kind of need to have actually. And I think this beer is quite difficult to get outside of the. It's difficult to get this beer outside of the local area, but you can say that for about a lot of beers in Germany. Germany's very keen on its kind of locality of patches, although I have noticed some of these very, very local beers in Germany, and they have started spreading to specialist beer shops and things like that, so I think they are starting to get over that a little bit in Germany, which I think is a good thing actually. You do want your beer production to be small, but you do want people to be able to taste it and, you know, want to come and visit your region. That is one of the things actually. But this is very, very nice actually. Let's just kind of try and break down the flavour a little bit then. So straight away with this one, you're going to feel that nice white bready, wheaty quality. That just blankets the middle of your palate. On top of that, you start to get the, you can just feel that it sort of lightens up a little bit. I do wonder if there might be a little bit of Pils malt or something in this, just to give it a little bit of crispness, because in the centre of the palate, there is almost just a little bit of a very slightly biscuity note. It really is quite minimal, but there is a bit of biscuitiness there, and you can feel the salty sweetness to this beer. That kind of lingers on the tongue a little bit and just sits in with the wheat thing. It's kind of an unusual sensation, that actually. It's a sort of salty, white bready kind of note there, but as I say, a little bit of biscuity note in the kind of middle of your palate as well. This is a really, I mean, it's a really interesting beer, and what I would say about this is, if you know this style, and as I say, I've had a few, it doesn't do anything surprising, but it's all about how this beer is crafted. It's all about how these flavours kind of fit together actually. It's just a nice, easy drinking beer. To be honest, before I would have tried this beer, I never would have thought of the Gose as a beer that you would sit down and have a few of. To me, the Gose would have been, you know, a beer that I would have as a, you know, as a taster beer, for example. But having tried this one, it really is one that you can sit down. I can see why the Germans always sit down and session their beers. And you can see exactly why this beer would have become quite popular. So it's interesting that there are places, pardon me, where they will session their sour beers actually. But yeah, I really like this one. The way that malt base goes together is very, very nice. And the interesting thing about this is that it's just that smoothness. It starts off really sharp and then it just smooths out. It gets a little bit sweeter the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But then it starts to become very, very smooth the more you go on to it. So the more you go into the aftertaste rather. So pay attention to that. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you can definitely pick up a little bit of that slightly sweet earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the palate, it really smooths out a little bit. As you reach the front corners of the palate, you'll start to get the more kind of floral, aromatic notes out of the beer. Not too kind of dry or anything like that, just that typical German noble quality there. Then round the very front curve of the palate, it's got a very nice kind of light grassiness there, but you really can feel the sweetness of the wheat and a little bit of that biscuity quality and the saltiness as well. They just start to push their way out in the middle of the palate the further you go into the aftertaste as well. This is really, it's really just a very nice beer, this one. Try this for yourself and see how you get on. The fruity side of things then. So, in the beginning, when you first take this beer in, you're going to get a little bit of that lemon kind of tart sharpness there in the beginning. You can really feel that there, and it lingers quite a bit actually, but then it starts to gradually fade away. It comes in on the very tip of the tongue, and then it moves back a little bit, and the further you go into the aftertaste, you almost get a little touch of like a slightly apricot-y note out of this beer. There is a little bit of an almost apricot-y don't think it's quite papayas, but there is a little bit of a kind of different fruity quality to this one, and the further that you go into the aftertaste, it does start to get a little bit peary, appley. You know, you will get a little bit of that more towards the front of your palate too, but a little bit of that sharpness does linger there, further towards the back of the palate too. But I mean, overall, this is it's just a very, very nice beer, this one, and it's a lot easier to drink than I thought it was going to be. I mean, as I said, most of the Gose beers that I've had before have been from the little microbreweries, and they make them really, really sharp and things like that, and you can only maybe drink one at a time, otherwise your mouth is saturated, but you could quite easily drink a good few of these. But that is one of the other kind of key traits of German beer, is the sessionability actually. But this is very, very nice, and I'm glad that I finally got to try one of these traditional German takes, or one of the traditional German Gose beers actually. You know, very, very pleased that I'm able to have tried this one for you. So yeah, awesome beer, this one. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again, and on the basis of this, I'm very curious to see how their Märzen and the Bock beer would be. Actually, they'll probably be slightly more high in alcohol. The breadiness will be a bit different, and maybe there's a bit of a more kind of caramelly, biscuity note to them as well. But this one, as it stands, the original, is very, very nice actually. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, this one, I'd say that this beer, it's at the top end of light-bodied, bottom end of mid-bodied. It's kind of somewhere within those brackets. The mouthfeel overall is it's quite smooth actually, but there's a good bit of oiliness to this beer as well. The carbonation has a good level of crispness to it too. I do suspect there might be just a little bit of a Pilsner malt or something there in the middle of the palate, but mainly the malt base is very, very smooth actually, but it does contribute a lot to the drinkability of this beer. On the hoppy side of things, I think we're only talking maybe about 20 IBUs at most with this beer. There's a good bit of tartness there, but like I say, the sharpness that this beer has is not going to blow the head off you. If you're used to drinking, you know, sour craft beers and things like that, they are a lot more puckering than this. If you think like Rodenbach and things like that, if you're more used to the Belgian sours, it's kind of got the same level of tartness to it as that does, for example. Nice little bit of fruity juiciness as well. You get a little bit of that apricot-y, appley, peary thing the further you go into the aftertaste. But the malt base is really nice and smooth, and the saltiness is kind of an interesting quirk to this beer as well. But overall, very, very nice, this one. A little bit surprised at how kind of clear it is when you consider it's a wheat beer, but I think quite a few, I don't know, if I look at what's left in the bottle, there's not much in the way of sediment on the bottom of it or anything like that too. But overall, a very, very nice beer, this one, and one that I do recommend that you try. As I say, it's very cool to finally get around to reviewing one of these classic German beers for you here on the channel. So yeah, let's just leave it at that. If you get the chance to try this beer, have a go at it for yourself, and hopefully this isn't the last time that I'm able to review one of these for you here on the channel. So do give me some other Gose recommendations in the description below, or in the comment section below. That would be absolutely awesome. Getting a little bit of gas from this one now. But yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Ritterguts Gose Brauerei. Hopefully I can return to these guys in the fairly near future. It's been great to review this one for you here. Make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one is the Ritterguts Gose, or the original Ritterguts Gose, from Ritterguts Gose Brauerei, based in Leipzig, but brewed under contract in Chemnitz in Germany. Until the next time, Slangen now, and I'll catch you guys soon. Slangen, Skål, Prost, make sure you try this beer. Cheers.